Composition number 4, 1926. Tableau number 11, 1922. Tableau number 10, 1925. Tableau number 7, 1925. Though these works look simple, they hold a large significance on Western culture as it is known today. Their modern designs have inspired the world around us to this very day, and all of this due to their creator, Piet Mondrian. However, the significance to society's aesthetic wasn't enough. These 4 pieces have a mysterious past, and unraveling their history holds a key to determining their future. But why exactly is their future uncertain? They have been kidnapped. To understand the relevance of these works and why they're being coveted, we must first know about their Dutch author, Piet Mondrian. Born March 7, 1872, Piet Mondrian had a humble beginning as an artist. He began his successful career in 1911, at age 39, having moved from Amersfoort, Netherlands, to Paris, France. Painting in a naturalistic style came easily to Mondrian, with his vast memories of Dutch landscapes. But his works would not flourish until he had made his great discoveries leading up to neoplasticism after the year 1914. By 1921, Mondrian took to painting with only the most basic elements of art, limiting his use of color to only red, blue, yellow, white, gray, and black. His paint strokes were limited to only vertical and horizontal lines, all uniformly straight with no tolerance to diagonals or curves. These limitations are the basis to neoplasticism, of which Mondrian was a master. Comparing the paintings The Mill and Sunlight, 1908, and Composition with Red, Blue, and Yellow, 1942, it's easy to see how strange neoplasticism could seem at first, and this was the mindset many artists had at the time. But Mondrian would forge the style into other Dutch artists in 1917 with the help of Theo van Doesburg. Working with Theo van Doesburg, Mondrian helped found the style in the year 1917. Other artists and Dutch architects would flock to the group focused on neoplasticism and modern art. This group of aspiring artists would take the knowledge from the style and go on to influence the world with abstractionism in architecture and design. Tableau number 7, made in 1922, would be a product of Mondrian's time in the style, making it among some of the founding pieces to neoplasticism today. Mondrian worked with the style for 6 years until 1923, when disagreements among the artists started to contradict the simplistic form Piet strived for. As stated in a letter from Mondrian to artist Van Tongerloo, although we both want to give form to unity, our perceptions stand diametrically opposed. Van Tongerloo's work was created with the idea that geometric forms created unity. Neoplasticism would have no such claim with Mondrian's uncalculated placement of forms. George Van Tongerloo wasn't the only person to derail from neoplasticism. Theo van Doesburg began working with diagonals, essentially the final straw that convinced Mondrian that he would need to take his personal technique elsewhere. Composition number 4, Tableau number 11, and Tableau number 10 would be continuations of Mondrian's strict adherence to his personal technique, especially after leaving the style. The importance to neoplasticism is ever present among these paintings. Being a part of Mondrian's personal collection, they must have served as mementos to his achievements in art. But their future, along with their creators, would soon change for the worse. World War II. Hitler and the Nazi Party would loot Europe for as many artistic wonders as they could acquire. Hitler would not only organize the systematic destruction of nearly 6 million Jews, claim the lives of 17 million soldiers and civilians through war, he would also organize the theft of many famous works of art, including the Ghent altarpiece, Woman in Gold, Portrait of a Young Man, and even the Mona Lisa. Not only did Hitler plan to steal for personal interest, he stole to showcase what he called degenerate art. Mondrian wasn't oblivious to the political climate in Germany. In fact, he feared the threat of war as he had done during World War I. He decided to send a letter to an American friend in hopes of arranging a ship out of Europe and into the U.S., but his call for aid wouldn't come fast enough. Having been labeled as degenerate by the Nazis, Mondrian took matters into his own hands and moved to London in 1938 to avoid the immediate German presence near Paris, France. In this time, 2 pieces of Mondrian's art would be confiscated from German museums in Hanover and Essen, and displayed in the degenerate art exhibit for their abstract nature. Despite Mondrian's attempts to flee Europe, the war caught up to Mondrian on September 7, 1940. The Nazi air raid on London would blow the windows at a Mondrian studio and destroy the two neighboring buildings. All of this happening while Mondrian hid in a bomb shelter under a friend's home. With a direct attack on London, Mondrian would take a boat to Liverpool on September 23rd, and with the financial help of an American friend by the name of Harry Holtzman, Mondrian would sail to New York City. While traveling, he would be leaving most of his belongings and artworks behind, including 8 paintings Mondrian lent in 1930 to an exhibit in Krefeld, Germany, which included Composition 4, Tableau number 11, Tableau number 10, and Tableau number 7. As of today, the whereabouts of the 8 paintings is only partially known. 4 of the works remain in the Kaiser Wilhelm Museum in Krefeld, Germany, and the other 4 pieces are somewhere among private collections. A lot of what is known about the 4 Mondrian works seen here is thanks to the investigations established by the Holtzman family. As Piet Mondrian lived in New York, he developed a close connection to his friend Harry Holtzman. And through this close bond, Mondrian would write on his deathbed a will relinquishing all his belongings to Harry, which would include many of the personally owned, lent, and unsold works. With Robert P. Welsh and Jupen Justin's work on the Piet Mondrian catalogue Raison, the 8 paintings in Krefeld would be discovered by the Holtzman children. The discovery would take place in 1998 when the catalogue that listed many of Mondrian's works and information about said works was published. It is here where the fight for Composition 4, Tableau number 11, Tableau number 10, and Tableau number 7 begins, and when the investigations take place, as the Holtzman heirs dispute that the 4 paintings should be in their possession. During World War II, Mondrian would assume all his works left in Germany were destroyed for being degenerate, and he wouldn't look away from his new home in New York to attempt a recovery that would seem futile. Piet Mondrian would die on February 1st, 1944, and 6 years would pass before his works would resurface from the turmoils that consumed much of Europe. In 1950, the 8 paintings lent to the Kaiser Wilhelm Museum in 1930 made a reappearance, having not been seen or heard of for nearly 2 decades. And soon after, the museum would sell off 4 of the paintings, keeping only 4 of the 8 for themselves and incorporating them into their inventory in 1954. This is all information discovered by investigators employed by the Holtzman family, but when it comes to information regarding where the art was for the 20 years between the 2 periods, the museum has no records, creating much doubt as to whether this museum is holding onto the art pieces legally, or if it ever had the right to sell 4 of the 8 paintings to begin with. The Holtzman heirs are seeking restitution for the 4 sold pieces, and want the other 4 pieces in Krefeld to be given up, as the museum can show no proof that Mondrian ever gave the paintings to the museum to keep. As of spring 2018, the paintings in question have not been given to the family, but instead still reside in the Krefeld Museum. Composition number 4, Tableau number 11, Tableau number 10, and Tableau number 7 should be returned to the family for multiple reasons. The first being that the museum lacks any kind of legal documentation that proves the right of ownership to the 4 paintings, or even that the museum held the paintings on loan. This should come as a surprise to most people with knowledge of museums, as museums have a responsibility to establish their art's provenance. Secondly, the museum had made no attempts in the early 1950s to report the findings of the paintings. It wasn't until Justin's publication of the Mondrian catalogue that light was shed on the missing works. The Kaiser Wilhelm Museum states, as written in a New York Times article published March 4, 2018, that the Holtzman heirs cannot stake claim due to the statute of limitations, meaning that too much time has passed for evidence to be considered untampered by time. The issue with this claim is that the artwork wasn't known about until around 1998, 12 years after Harry Holtzman died and left his property to his own children. In this regard, the statute of limitations should seemingly be revoked for this case. The Kaiser Wilhelm Museum fills the blank spaces in the history of the 8 paintings with assumptions that Mondrian gifted the art pieces. But the investigators and heirs alike disclaim this assumption with the fact that the museum was specialized in post-war art, not abstract pieces, and that Mondrian wasn't in a good financial state to be donating artwork instead of selling them. And to credit the assertion that Mondrian would have sold the paintings before donating them, the 8 pieces were traced back to an exhibit by the heirs' researchers. The exhibit was known as The Chair, and took place in Frankfurt, 1929, where 19 art pieces by Mondrian were displayed and put up for sale. The unsold works were loaned to be displayed in Krefeld. Overall, the 4 paintings have little to no reason to be housed in Krefeld, and should be returned to the Holtzman family as Piet Mondrian would have wished them to be. The works also have an importance in the United States, which is where Piet Mondrian spent his final years. The abstract art took hold of American culture and contributed to many of the designs people see there every day. 5 years after Mondrian's death, The Museum of Modern Art had made a point to explain this idea to the public.
So they were constantly telling their audiences, don't worry, like you can live with Mondrian. You might even want to have a Mondrian painting around you because they're all around you anyway. Mondrian has inspired contemporary architecture, graphic design, furniture, etc. You can feel comfortable with this. This is a feature of everyday life by now.
Nancy Troy speaks at the fourth event in a conference series known as Holland to America, a transatlantic dialogue from 1609 to today. Organized and hosted by the Terra Foundation Paris Center and Library in spring 2016. The effect Mondrian had on the art world is more prevalent in the US as compared to Germany, where his works were destroyed or confiscated during the war. Likewise, the US had influence over Mondrian by introducing him to electrical tape, which would be incorporated into Mondrian's methods of painting line work. This and more was discussed in an interview held by Madalena Holtzman, who interviewed Nicholas Fox Weber, a cultural historian who was writing a book on Piet Mondrian during the time of the interview. The interview also describes an event where Mondrian donated artwork to Black Mountain College, an experimental art college in Asheville, North Carolina, furthering the point of Mondrian making an impact in the U.S. by exchanging his works around the states. Getting the 4 paintings by Mondrian into the Holtzman heir's hands means more than fulfilling a dead artist's final wish. It's also a step in the right direction for anyone seeking restitution or ownership of artwork that was either lost or stolen during the Nazi looting of World War II. By settling the Holtzman's case, light can be shed on the importance of keeping a provenance of art and how to restore justice to those who were wronged in the Second World War. The next possible big step in the Holtzman case is in 2019. The Dutch Institute for Art History, the Helfens Institute for Dutch History, and the Gemeente Museum have been working together to publish translated and analyzed documents written by Piet Mondrian and Harry Holtzman. The project is called the Mondrian Papers, and by 2019 the institutes and museums plan to have much of Mondrian's early life published. And by 2027 they plan to have all documents pertaining to Mondrian's life published in annotated and illustrated detail. This large public access of Mondrian-related information will hopefully aid the Holtzman's case by increasing the overall insight into Mondrian as a person and his art-related actions before the start of World War II.